A ver, vecino, you're going to want to sit down for this one. So go ahead and grab that cafecito. Have you ever been in a moment where you're about to say something and you can feel it coming up? You're ready to give somebody a piece of your mind, but suddenly you're like, nah, that isn't sitting right. And right before you speak up, something inside you goes, mejor no. Don't. No faltes el respeto. Don't make it a problem. Just let it go. Y te quedas callado, even though you know that you had something to say. Pero después, you can't stop thinking about it. ¿Por qué no dije nada? And it just eats at you and eats at you and eats at you. Well, hey, vecino, welcome to episode 6 of the Entre, Mundos podcast. This is a space for bicultural Latinos navigating life between cultures. Y aquí hablamos de cultura, identidad, mental health, family expectations, and what it means to honor your roots without losing yourself. Now, before we get deeper into today's conversation, I want to offer a quick reminder. Even though I work as a trauma-informed mental health counselor and a nervous system educator, this podcast is not therapy and it's not a replacement for therapy. This space is for reflection and conversation. Mejor think of it like sitting down with a vecino who understands both cultura y psychology. Ahora sí, let's talk. Well, before we can even talk about speaking up, we have to understand something first. Porque this didn't just start with you. A lot of our families come from environments where survival mattered more than expression. We come from generations that experienced scarcity, migration, racism, trauma, systems where questioning authority wasn't safe. In those environments, speaking up wasn't empowering, it was risky. So the rule became stay quiet and things stay safe. Let's also take a look at that word respeto. And I'm not talking about the version people talk about now, the American one. I'm talking about the one that a lot of us grew up with. In many Latino homes, respect isn't equal, it's positional. Parents are seen as the authority, elders, you better not even question. And children, you better listen and not speak up. So growing up, respect didn't mean let's understand each other. It meant don't question, don't challenge, don't contradict. And if you did, the whole family would give you a verbal chanclazo. Mira, in a lot of our families, the goal wasn't self-expression. The goal was to keep the family intact. So speaking up created tension, and it wasn't seen as growth. It was seen as a threat. Because if that family structure broke, our parents didn't have a roadmap for what could come next. So speaking up was a definite no. And I'll be real with you, I must have been my parents' nightmare. My parents were older when I was born, and I came out mouthy. Desde chiquito, I was already pushing back. I used to walk around telling people, chop. That was my toddler version of telling people to shut up. And my mom would get embarrassed, like, ¿Qué le pasa a este niño? And that didn't really change. I didn't grow up letting elders push me around, and it cost me. Sometimes it cost me a lot. Because even though that's how I was wired, the system I was in wasn't built for that. And whenever you really break this down, this isn't just about speaking up. It's about what you're afraid might happen if you do. Porque for a lot of us, the real fear isn't conflict. It's this. If I say something, I might hurt them. If I hurt them, I might lose their cariño. If I lose that, I lose part of myself. Because being the reason that your parents are sad or your grandparents are sad, that hits deep. So what do we do with all of that? Many times we find ourselves not saying anything, pero tampoco nos quedamos igual. We start moving different. We start to distance ourselves. And as a second-gen Mexican-American, I call this dramatic Mexican ghosting. You don't speak up. Instead, you start disappearing a little. Calls get shorter, texts take longer, and you show up, but not really. You keep everything surface, porque if you don't speak up, you don't have to deal with what might happen if you do. And the crazy part is that just because you're quiet doesn't mean that it's quiet inside of your cabeza. Tu mente está prendida. It's on fire with all kinds of thoughts. No digas nada, don't be disrespectful, aguántate, you're being selfish. And it's like this whole rule book inside of your head. You didn't even, and you don't even know whenever you memorized it. It's just there. You just know that if you even start to imagine breaking one of those rules, you start acting como si tu mamá te iba a pegar con un chancla again. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, you feel it. And after a while, this stops being something that you think, and it starts becoming who you are. You start seeing yourself as, I'm the respectful one. I'm the one who keeps the peace. I'm the one who doesn't make things harder. This becomes your role. That becomes your identity. So now speaking up, it's not just uncomfortable. It feels like you're betraying who you've always been, even if that version of you was never fully your choice. And this is where it gets confusing, because now you're holding two different truths at the same time. One says, take care of your family, be loyal, be respectful. And the other says, set boundaries, take care of yourself. And la cosa es que nobody ever showed how those two go together. So it feels like if I show up for them, I lose myself. And if I show up for myself, I lose them. And that's not a light place to live in. It gets heavy. So what happens? You feel it. You think about it. You want to say something, but you don't. And in that moment, you feel relief for a little bit. Okay, todo bien, no pasó nada. But later, it's still there. That feeling inside of your chest, that conversation that you never had, that part of you that didn't get a voice, and your system goes, see, better not say anything next time. And just like that, the loop stays intact. So how do you even start shifting something like this? Well, you don't do it by forcing yourself to suddenly be someone that you're not. And you don't do it by waiting for the guilt to disappear either. You do it by starting here. You look at your beliefs and start saying, hey, well, that makes sense, but it's not the only way. Because that voice inside of your head, it's not random. It was taught, it was passed down, it was practiced. So instead of treating it like the truth, you start seeing it for what it is, a strategy that once kept you connected. But it might not be the strategy that you need anymore. Mira, you're not here to choose between two worlds. You're here to learn how to live in both without disappearing in either one of them. Mira, speaking up feels wrong, but not because it is, but because silence once kept you connected. Ahora you're learning a new way to stay connected. You're honoring your roots without losing yourself. So this week, don't try to fix everything. Don't try to say everything. Just notice the moments when that urge to speak up shows up. When you feel it in your chest, when the words are right there, but when you can't get them out. And instead of judging that experience, just get curious and ask yourself, what am I trying to protect right now? Because that answer, that's where your work begins. Y mira, if this is something that you're actively working on, I put together a free boundaries guide specifically for bicultural Latinos. It walks you through how to use your voice without feeling like you're losing your people. And you can find it on my Substack. The link is in the description. If this is something that you've experienced, I hope you know that you're not the only one. These are conversations that many of us have lived, but we've never had the space to talk about. So if anyone came to your mind while you were listening to this, do me a favor, compártelo. Send them this episode. Porque sometimes hearing something said out loud can make a difference. And if you'd like to continue this conversation yourself, you can go deeper with me on Substack, on TikTok, and on Instagram under the Entre Mundos collective. And of course, don't forget to tell all of your vecinos about your favorite bicultural vecino who understands both cultura y psychology. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of your people, and keep honoring your roots without losing yourself. Un abrazote fuerte. Hasta luego. Bye.